Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is April 7th. Early April can feel unruly. Growth is everywhere, and the garden wakes up faster than you can keep pace. Something new appears every morning in places you didn't expect and hadn't checked yet. You go outside to do one thing and end up doing four. It happens every year. The air has that particular smell now, the one that means the soil is working. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1770 that the English poet William Wordsworth was born. William did not treat landscapes as scenery. He walked beside them, lived beside them, and kept company with them. When William settled at Rydal Mount in England's Lake District near the village of Grasmere, he shaped a garden meant for movement. Long stone terraces for pacing, paths that curved and wandered, and rock pools where water was allowed to speak, with plants chosen not for show, but for feeling. William called the garden his office. He walked as he composed, speaking lines aloud and letting rhythm rise from the land beneath his feet. This was a garden that resisted stiffness, a gentle refusal of what William called the tyranny of trimness. Too much tidiness can make a garden feel watchful. William rejected that way of gardening. And when his daughter Dora died, William did not plant a single daffodil. He planted a field. Daffodils naturalize, multiplying year after year, and they return each spring at Rydal Mount untouched. William died in April of 1850 at 80 years old. His long autobiographical poem, The Prelude, was published just weeks later. And Dora's field at Rydal Mount still returns every spring. And it was on this day, in 1869, that the American botanist David Fairchild was born. David saw the world as a garden, one meant to taste. Working for the United States Department of Agriculture, David traveled relentlessly, collecting seeds and plants from around the world. Mangoes from India, cherries from Japan, soybeans from China, kale, quinoa, and pistachios. Plants that reshaped American farms and kitchens. David's life braided curiosity and invention. He married Marion Bell, the daughter of Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone. His work carried real risk: typhoid fever, arrows in tropical forests, and falls in the Andes. In 1938, David published his memoir called The World Was My Garden. That same year, his work found a permanent home at the Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden in Miami. It became a kind of global potluck. David died in 1954 at 84, and the garden in Miami is still growing. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear a line from the American journalist W. Earl Hull, born on this day in 1897. In the early 20th century, Earl lived and worked in Iowa, a place where fields stretch wide and quiet shapes the day. Still, he returned to what spring reveals first: the smell of thawing ground, the pale green of new leaves, and the way the light changes everything it touches. Earl once wrote, "Science has never drummed up quite as effective a tranquilizing agent as a sunny spring day." Earl said something about spring in that one line that no prescription has ever managed to say. There is simply no substitute for a sunny April day. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, A Heritage of Flowers by Tovah Martin. It's Pressed Flowers and Garden Crafts Week here on The Daily Gardener, and this book reminds us that some of the best flowers to work with are the heirlooms, the heritage bloomers that Tovah features in her book. Tovah Martin is a garden writer who has spent years listening to the old stories plants carry with them. In her book, Heirloom Flowers, Tovah looks at the blossoms that have followed gardeners through generations, the ones that survived because someone kept saving the seeds. Alongside photographs and plant histories, Tovah introduces the gardeners who refused to let these flowers disappear. And sometimes the story begins with something simple, like scent. Tovah once wrote, "I never knew the true perfume of sweet peas until a friend sent me a packet of heirloom seeds. They were part of his family legacy in the strictest sense, passed down and planted faithfully every year to keep the strain viable. The flowers weren't as large or as dense as they are today, but the aroma lingered. That was the year I realized the sweet peas of today aren't necessarily the same as the sweet peas my grandmother knew. Sometimes a flower survives because someone remembers how it used to smell." And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 2007 that the horticulturist Polly Hill died. Polly did not begin her most important garden work early. She began it deliberately in her 50s. She and her husband Dave settled on Martha's Vineyard in West Tisbury, where wind and salt shaped the land. There, Polly planted seeds, thousands of them. She watched and waited and wrote things down. What survived the wind? What made it through winter? What could handle the salt? And what returned the following spring? Slowly, through that daily practice, Polly began to see what the land would allow. And she wrote it all down. Every seed, every winter survived, every loss. In the 1970s, Polly began keeping those records on a computer. She didn't want the work to disappear. To Polly, it was the seedlings who told the truth, what could live there and what could not. Polly was born in 1907 and gone in 2007. 100 years, and still imagining what was next. As we close the show today, remember, around this time of year, things happen quickly. It rains once, then again, and everything changes. The grass turns green, forsythia flares, people start taking walks, asking, "What is that pretty flower?" And gardeners answer more easily now than we might in July. Because suddenly, it is spring. Everywhere. And in a breath, we shift from waiting to feeling behind. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.